Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk tank review of the CS-44. I've got good news for you. I've got good news. Oh, by the way, this is the new Polish line, half line. It's the Tier 7 medium on that Polish half line. Got some good news. The good news is that they're not all hot garbage. I rated the Tier 5 as slightly below average. I rated the Tier 6, the buggy, as below average. It really probably should be well below, but it's possible I just didn't play that one very well. So we're going with below average. On the CS-44, slightly above average. So if you're just looking for the bottom line up front big picture, a slightly above average Tier 7 medium. And that's actually pretty good for Tier 7. We'll do the standard stuff. Take a look at an overview. We'll do tech tree considerations, look at the 3D model, which is kind of interesting on this tank. We'll make a comparison amongst the other Tier 7 mediums in the tech tree. Look at my stats, my setup, and then some examples of gameplay. So quickly on the overview, this is an interesting deal. A project of a medium tank developed by students of Warsaw University of Technology in the latter half of the 40s. So I'm assuming after the war, after World War II. So looking at potential follow-on tanks. Of course, Poland was part of the Warsaw Pact, so they're going to run all of the Russian tanks. It does have some Russian-esque kinds of aspects to it, the turret especially. And then it is a kind of tall hole right there. We'll get into the 3D model, but what's interesting is the hull armor is 140 and the turret armor is 150. And I'll get to you, CS-43, but just as a quick example here, the CS-53 has 80 hull and only 130 turret. We'll get to the CS-53. Not a good tank. But anyway, we're disparage the whole line as we go here. We're going to talk about the CS-44, which I actually quite enjoyed and thought was a pretty good, slightly above average Tier 7 tank. So let's move on to the tech tree considerations. All right, tech tree considerations. I've talked about this a couple times, but it's a little bit of a weirdness with the crew. They have the same 4 crew slots all the way through the line. Commander, driver, gunner, loader, and the radio operator is the commander on every tank except for the 8. So the 7 for the review today on the CS-44, that's good, but when you bring your crew up, if you do move it to the CS-53, the radio position changes from the commander to the gunner for one tank and then goes back. Highly, highly annoying. I hope they change that at some point. No real gameplay reason for that to happen. So just be forewarned if you bring your crew up there and all of a sudden you see the blanked out skill and it's not working and wondering why. That's what's going on. The Pudel is a decent crew trainer for it. The Pudel does have a radio operator as a separate position. And then the Rudy is also one of the premiums at Tier 6. And of course it's got the dog in the 5th position, but it's got the commander, driver, gunner, and loader as well. So that works out for the CS-44. If we take a look at it, pretty straightforward on the upgrades. I did not bother with the 90mm. It's a slightly upgraded, or the 90mm WZ-46, a slightly upgraded 90mm. Get you a little bit more pen, I believe. Let's see, we start off with 156 and 198. I will show you some stock gun. 240 Alpha, which is entirely reasonable at Tier 7. The stock grind on this thing was not bad. Has enough armor to kind of keep it in the game a little bit. And still with the stock gun is hitting at 240. You are going to have to dab 2 a bit, but not bad. We'll take a look at that. I didn't bother putting this thing on it. It's kind of irritating to me that they even have those kinds of things where you don't even have to go through the gun. So what's the point? I don't know why anybody would unlock that gun. Let me just put it that way. As far as the sequence, I went ahead and did the tracks. I don't remember if I absolutely needed to on this. I did make one mistake on the CS-44. I was clicking around. Somehow I used free experience to buy the engine. I was going to go from pure stock on this one. I did free XP the engine while I was clicking one day. Completely just boneheaded move. But I went through the tracks, the radio, this turret, and the big gun, and then ground out the CS-53. We'll look at how many games that took me in just a minute. Not very many with all the ×5s and all the stuff that you can get these days. I did not use any blueprints, but you can see I had plenty to do so. I mean, I'll tell you what, the grinding up to Tier 10 in this game right now is pretty darn easy, especially if you've been around for any length of time and have built up some of these things. That's pretty much it for the tech tree, not a lot to say. Let's move on to the 3D model. All right, the total amount of armor on this thing is actually pretty good. The angles aren't fantastic, but it does get into some pretty good, when you're poking out at angles around corners, into some pretty good armor, and you're going to bounce a few here and there. It's not something to rely on. The rounded turret is okay, but you can see it's pretty flat plated in here. It's still just really the regular thickness of 150. It doesn't get a lot of help until you get some angles, and then it's on the back side of the turret, things like that. Look, coming up over hills, obviously the big bottom flat plate is pretty easy to hit right there. Oh, I got the wrong tank. Hold on. There we go. All right. That's bugging me in the garage. You can't see it. Not really bad on the turret tumors, although they are there. So as those will come up and over hills as you're doing ridge poking and things like that, but they're not very easy to hit. They can be hit, but they're not very easy. Front mounted gun, very flat sided, lots of tracks on the side to eat heat, and HE right there. So while the thickness of the armor is pretty good, it's not super useful. There are just certain times, and with a front mounted turret coming around corners and a bit of an angle right here, you can sometimes bait shots, get a deflection or a ricochet bounce and then come out and hit them. It's not something that you would want to rely on, but it is there in that particular kind of fight. And if they're look up and getting into your top plate, but still, holy cow, it's not bad. 170. I mean, you're talking tier 5s and 6s are going to have a little bit of trouble unless they're dabbing too, especially the mediums and lights. So it will get some bounces off those. Most heavies are not going to have a whole lot of trouble with any of the armor unless you get some kind of auto bounce angle right there. So that is it for the 3D model on this thing. I will tell you one thing though, it's light years ahead of the tier 8. All right, let's move on. Taking a look at the comparison, you know, this has been an interesting line for me. The concept apparently was that they would be pretty hard-hitting tanks, and then there was some talk at tier 10 about being fast, and I figured, well, maybe all of them will be kind of fast and hard-hitting. That's been hit or miss. The tier 6 or tier 5 where it starts has 135, I think, alpha. It's not really that hard-hitting. You get to the tier 6, the buggy, it's got 240, but if you look at my review, it's kind of hard to get that 240 to do anything based on a crummy DPM. The gun's a bit derpy and a bunch of other problems with the tank. And I found a very similar situation here. None of those are particularly fast. This one's decently fast at tier 7. So I will give that it is a relatively mobile and fast, pretty easy to drive tank. It does get a 300 alpha gun, so it's got that big gun. You can see that that's well above anything else that's in this particular group of tier 7s. But what's crazy about it is you get down here, it's a 12-second reload. Holy cow, it takes forever. And then you go, okay, one of the bouncing factors for big alpha guns is they generally have lower DPM, but how about 1400? Look at the rest of them. The T20 is at 1500, but it's carrying that 240 alpha. About 100 more. But holy cow, a Comet's at 2200, KB-13's at 2100, T-43 at 2000, Panther at 20. My goodness, even the P-43 TER, which is kind of known for a big gun like the T-20, is sitting at 1877. My goodness gracious. Then you say, well, maybe it's an accurate gun. No, not really. Not really. 0.39, derpiest of the group, and the aiming time's decent. Okay, great. So terrible dispersion that will aim in fast to terrible dispersion. That's great. That's great. The bottom line here is that it's nice to have a 300 alpha gun, but it just gets outplayed by these other tier 7s. It really does. It suffers a lot. Now, I liked it. I'm going to call it slightly above average. We're going to talk about why when we play. But the numbers are pretty atrocious. The good news is that it has some armor, unlike the rest of the line. So it is not a complete punching bag. So that does help it a little bit. It's the only one of the line so far that I've found that has enough armor, good mobility, and the big punchy gun that as a combination it actually works. The rest of them, there's something else missing that's important, and they just do not work according to the way that I think Wargaming thought they were going to play. I did also not note, but I will now, that only -6 on the gun depression does make it a little bit tricky to use in certain terrain. The speed's nice, as I said. Come down here, it's top 57. That's nice. It's a kilometer an hour more than the T20 over here, so that works out very nicely. No problem there. The camo is the camo. Everything's in pretty close proximity at this tier. It's actually pretty decent at 14. It's up near the top or so. And then 370 on view range is near the bottom. In fact, is there anything worse? Yeah, the KB13 has 360. Quite a discrepancy there, actually. 30 meters between the T20 and the lowest guy at 360 on the KB13. What do we have here overall? It's like I just said. The idea is a big punchy gun, but you have to take care to use it. You can't just get into a trading fight with the TR. Well, maybe the TR you can. The Comet, KB13, the guys who fire faster, the Panther. You don't want to just drive out and just get in a swirling fight with these guys. You need to plan your pokes, and you'd like to trade your 300 for their 140 or 180 and not let them get 2 or 3 140s and 180s on you while you're trying to reload. So that means out in the open duels and circling duels, things like that. You really want to avoid those things. You want to only expose to drop that 300 and then get back to cover and not get pewed to death by faster firing guns. The 300 stick is going to make you feel like a big bad bully, and if you go try to big bad bully heavies, you're going to come out on the bottom end of that. So you have to act like a medium all around the whole time. All right, let's look at my stats with this thing. It took me 32 games to unlock the Tier 8, and that was cheating a little bit to get the engine, so add another 5 or 6 onto that. Somewhere around 40 games, I think, is a reasonable expectation, but I used personal reserves. I did my manageable experience, all 5 of them each day on this thing, because I have premium, so if you don't, then that's going to take you a little longer. And I said personal reserves, and whatever other bonuses I could find, and I got through this thing pretty quick. There was also a chunk of 30,000 experience that got dropped on me by one of the missions, an XP weekend. So 32 is really fast. It's just an example of if you hit it at the right time with all the missions and the personal reserves and all the things you can do with manageable experience, it doesn't take long. I would suspect it's more like a 60 to 80 potentially grind for somebody who's just grinding that thing out as far as battles go, if you're going to start from stock. The stock grind was not that bad. How did I do? At 53%. Survival was a little low. Hits were good, so I was doing a good job of getting that very slow firing gun into the game. You have to do that. A miss in this thing is painful. You do not want to miss. You need to be very careful with your shots. 1.61 damage, destruction 2.45 is good. Armor use, there it is. You know, 0.5, I would go, ooh, that's some pretty good armor for a medium. 0.2, that's a lot of lucky bounces and things, but there's just enough to keep you in it. Every once in a while, you're going to get that bounce that you want without relying on it. Experience is good. Anytime I get near 1,000 at around Tier 7, 6 or 7, things are going pretty well. Damage is all right at 1,484. My silly Tier 8 is only like 100 more. So, got a pretty good average damage in this thing. Spotted's up there. That speaks to the speed of the thing. You got to be careful, though, and I did find myself getting in trouble with it because of its speed. I'd get to places, and without backup, this thing is not going to be able to hold spots very well, especially if it gets jumped on by multiple guys, because if you can't get back to cover, if you have to get into a swirling brawl fight, it's very difficult to win with this dude. So if you have a couple guys helping you out, then that speed's great. You can go take those forward positions and keep people from jumping all over you, and then you can better employ that 300 stick and just pound people when you get the chance back into cover, wait for that really long reload, and pop back out. Assist damage pretty good at 450. Destroyed at 1.53 works for me, and I had a 5-kill game with a maximum of 2,885, which is a little bit low, but only 30 games. I figured this thing can probably drop, 4, 5, 6,000 at times based on its alpha if you play it right. Let's look at my setup. Just a quick note on that estimate on what you could do. I'm talking like the best game you had in it. Not I'm going to run around and drop 5, 6,000 damage on people regularly. All right. Just wanted to make that clear. My setup is vents, rammer, and optics. I did not change anything when the new, well, I guess I didn't have to do because I didn't have this tank when the new 1.10 came out. These are the things I bought. I guess what I'm trying to say is I went with kind of a standard build from the past. So not using the rotation device and some of the other things that are out there. I put the vents in the bonus slot because they get a bonus right there, a rammer and optics. I think that's a pretty standard, straightforward setup. My crew was this crew that came from the, or that I brought up from the tank below and then went ahead and put in the CS-53, so it was a pretty darn good crew. You see, they had a lot of skills. They're much better now after having played a bunch of games in the CS-53, but they were a 3-skill crew probably working on the 4th while they were in the CS-44. I had 26 AP. I was carrying 10 heat. The big gun is heat for the gold. The smaller guns is APCR. You can see that it's got a pretty good penetration of 220 with the heat. Not amazing, but decent. And 4 HE rounds for any of those kind of eventualities. I was running large repair kit, large first aid kit, and an automatic fire extinguisher. You can clearly run directives. I didn't run any for the grind on this, but that would be a nice addition right there. Food would probably help with the gun handling because it is a little bit derpy, so that would go a long way. And the rotation devices, and there are some other things you could throw in there. I don't know if it carries a vert stab, to be honest, at tier 7. I'm not sure. There's the improved rotation device. I don't think so. I don't think it has a vert stab. So you might be SOL on that. Yeah, it looks like there's no vert stab option for this tank. So the best thing you could do really if you wanted to add help to that would be to go improve rotation mechanism, run food, and maybe a directive for the vents or something with gun handling potentially in there. Well, I don't know if the gun handling directives work with the rotation device. So many things to learn as we go through here. That was my basic setup for this. All right, let's take a look at 3 examples. First example, we're here on Ensk. Not bottom tier, but there are some 8s we have to worry about in here. I do have the stock configuration. I have the stock gun on there. That's the 240 Alpha. As you can see there, at 156 pen and with the APCR up to 198, which is pretty much enough to deal with most of these things right here. The IS-3A, I probably want to try to get a side shot in if I can. So we're spawned into the south, and we'll go ahead and get started. Obviously on Ensk, not having the top engine and being fast doesn't hurt you as much because it's a tiny little map, but you can see I zipped along pretty quickly, so even with the stock engine this thing was not too bad. I will say one thing about this line, I did not find any of the stock grinds to be mega painful. The upgraded tank just wasn't that great overall, and it seems to be kind of the theme of these things. Excuse me. However, this one upgraded, I did quite enjoy. I'm going to have a couple Ace Tanker games after this, one with the stock gun and one without. But I just wanted to show you a more workmanlike, early on in the career of the CS-44 here, this is the battle we got into. One of the first ones with it. And, you know, sometimes it's those first impressions are important in this game. And it's possible that I just liked this tank because I started off doing decently with it. There's the shot that went into the IS-3A with APCR, so the 198 pin, but he was angled, so I was able to get into more of a flat look on his pike nose. So it can handle 8s, it just kind of depends in some cases on where you hit them. And obviously if you're going to dab numero dos right there. Gun is working out, right? Not a particularly accurate gun, but it made it happen right there. This dude's kind of stuck on stuff, and we'll just thump him twice. Hellcat, KB1S goes around the corner and pays the price. The S1, good on him, is posted up right there. That actually kind of blew my mind. Front mounted turret makes poking around corners and things much nicer than, say, middle or rear mounted turrets. Fairly comfortable, but it's got that long butt on it. When you're backing out of stuff, you got to be careful you're not sticking the rear end out behind things and getting thumped. IS-3A's moving around. They're starting to beat up on our guys. We got their stirves, 2 of their stirves. There goes the OI. So we'll come around the corner. Here's the IS-3. He shoots. That was never going to pin. Probably a better idea to go after the Super Hellcat. I eat a shot right there, unfortunately, and then bounce off of him. So probably not really the greatest idea just to go around there and duel him. I was hoping to get a shot on him. There we go. He reloads about as fast as I do, if not a little bit faster. Plus he fired first. So we hang out on this corner for just a second. We got it evened up at 4-4. Tiger 2's doing some yeoman's work in the middle, keeping them from coming around. I really want to go around the corner and start getting into their side. I duel him a couple times. I think I'm probably not going to win too many more of those. He's going to be sitting there waiting. So let's move back. Anyway, the Hellcat's not doing a damn thing there, is he? He's just sitting there in a window. So let him cool his heels back there in the back. As long as no one's poking around and he doesn't reposition, who cares what that guy's doing. Of course, then I immediately come back around and see if he's still there. Trying to find out. There he is. Yep, he is there. So I go just far enough using the turret of the dead tank. I just want to know if he moved away. So I can see a bit of a push going in the middle. I'm thinking, alright, this is where we need to win this thing. come around here. We got 919 damage. The OI thumps that dude. I'd like to get the buggy out. Bit of a crossfire there, so I don't want to just go driving in on an IS-38 and let him shoot me twice and take me out of the game. But I would like to get in behind and around these guys and start punishing them. I see the IS-38 backing out, and I think that gives me an opportunity to do this right here. And it does. He's actually not looking. Long reload though, right? Relatively long reload on this tank, so unfortunately I wasn't able to punish him for crossing that open area. Now here he comes. I'm just going to wait for a shot. There we go. Oh, no damage. I'll just hide. Their buggy goes down. They've got two guys sitting in here. Try to sneak one into his flat plate there, but I don't get any love out of it. Oh, this is going to hurt, isn't it? There we go. A little shot into his side. A 237 roll. Oh, that was a low. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the stock gun. I almost forgot. So, ooh, and there's a high roll. There you go. A little high roll action on him. I think that was a low roll, wasn't it? They're all low rolls. Oh, my gosh. I was thinking it said 276, but it's 260. Fantastic. And a win. So 1 kill, 1,500 damage, 152 assist. Kind of a workman-like game right there, but just show you that, you know what, the stock grind on this thing is not bad. Just be prepared to shoot some number 2 out of the gun, not a big deal. It actually has okay pen, and a 240 stock gun at tier 7 is not bad. It's as good or better than a lot of the top guns that some of these guys get at tier 7 in your mediums. Plus, you see, look at the speed, just cruising along, no worries. Doing about 50, so even with the stock engine, not bad at all. This was before I accidentally bought the big engine, just so you know. All right, let's take a look at another example. The second example is my first ace, and I did it with the stock gun. I believe I've got the upgraded engine in this thing now, so we're trucking along. You can see nice speed, pretty good mobility on this bad boy. We've got the 240 Alpha. You can see that it's APCR for the gold, obviously. 198, once again, same thing as last game, 156 on the standard AP round, and I've got the 4. Plenty of rounds in this tank. We are here on Cliff, spawning to the north, and we're going to go up here to the middle, at least initially, and start working out here. The -6 depression will cause you a few issues, so we do have to watch out for that. Especially in positions like this. Let me just ram everybody here as we go through. Excuse me. T-20's headed over there. The T-54 Mod 1 to my right. And I just want to come up here and see if I can't sneak some shots right into some people early on. This is one of the easier early shot opportunity spots in the game. I'll put a little track on the Tiger 2. That gets us spotted, obviously. So I don't want to just poke out. See how long that reload is relatively? It just took me a while. Whereas maybe with some of the other tier 7s, you might get a couple shots or be able to pull back, reload quickly, and shoot again. Sneak one into the KV2. There's RNG just working for me. I see the Dicker Max. Unfortunately, I've got a 2 pressed. He's looking right at me. Sneak in there. I hit him, but I did not do any damage. Dicker Max takes a lot of reload, but almost as long as me, so I'll sneak one more shot and we'll back out. I'm thinking, was I lit? Thank goodness I didn't just drive out, because my timing was off on that. I thought, oh, he didn't see me. Just as I started creeping forward, it went off. And there's my buddy. Hit by artillery. Artillery will cause a lot of problems with the Polish mediums, because they are fairly lightly skinned. This one's okay, but the CS-43 just gets absolutely hammered, as does the buggy. We're just looking for a shot in here. We've used quite a bit of our APCR. We've got a Tiger 1. I just can't quite get to the top of this dude. There we go. That one works out. Just sneak one in there. Little 221 action. So what have we done? We got a 221. We got a 236. We got a 266. So only one of them is a high roll. That's going to miss. Not an easy shot. 3045M just driving around in the open. Not anymore. He's sorted out. I'm going to try to sneak one into the Dicker Mac. Can we hit him from here? No, it's going to go into the rock. Waste of an APCR. Probably need to shift over to AP in here. Got quite a few guys on the 1-2 line. The 34 and the Tiger P have gone around. All of a sudden I see the KR is hanging out over here and he's looking. Ouch. Very lucky that that RNG was nice to me and let me have that shot. And I'm just going to try to run around here and get into some cover, but some of my buddies go in there. And I've got my stupid turret a lot. I'll tell you what, this thing's turrets seem to get damaged a lot, and I don't know if it's because of the way, I don't know if this like flat bit of armor is also the ring. I don't think so. Not really sure where I got hit on that, but for whatever reason, I feel like the turret on this thing got damaged a bunch. Want to be careful about getting lit by things like the Chi-Ri, because the guys who may be camping up on their camping spot up there will have free shots in there. I do want to fix, there we go, so I want to fix the turret. Broken turrets are painful, man. They really can't throw your timing off when you're trying to turn and get your gun online. I recommend fixing them. A lot of people ignore it, but I do recommend fixing them. We'll come around this way and see if we can't find the Chi-Ri. Tiger P's moving in. T-34 is on the outside of that. Cromwell is sitting over there on the back edge. Don't really want to be seen by the Cromwell and then have him start spitting shots at me. That's one of those trading tanks, medium trades, that you don't really want to get into. Sitting there in the open and letting the Cromwell pew-pew while you just take one shot, especially if you miss that 200, in this case 240 alpha, but later 300 alpha with a slow reload, is just not a place you want to be. So I see the buggy doing the buggy things over here. And shoot, nowhere near where he was. Oh, okay, he's over here. Here we go, thump him for a nice 232. Just leave him alive with some hit points, see if we can kill him. Oh, that's a bummer. He sneaks back around, and I'm just really spamming the gold, so not a really good job of me of managing my gold rounds. Really, everything that's left here, minus the Tiger 1 potentially, I don't really need number 2 for any of them, so it's just a waste of money at this point. Especially that guy. I'll just hit him. A little bit of gold. How do you like me now? That might have been an AP round, actually. So we're down to 29 of those. Somebody else sees me. He's taking a shot. We're up to 1421, 1,165 assists. No kills yet. Hellcat's kind of moving in this way. Let's just move around here and see if we can't find a shot on him. Kind of know where 3 of them are. Chi-Ri goes down in a heap. Finding the 1-2 line starts to do something, and I'm going to go ahead and push forward here in just a moment, see if I can get... Oh yeah, we got the buggy, Mr. Buggy. Oh. Large dispersion, quite a long wait for it to get down to any kind of accuracy. We'll just push forward now up here. I know the Tiger was hiding on the other side of this, so I'm kind of curious what has happened to that guy. Is he really still sitting there? Yes, he is. Now I'm proxy lit. That's a bit of a bummer, because he will know I'm coming. There's no way really to sneak around the corner. There's also 2 artillery who are probably very interested in trying to get a shot on me if I come around the corner. And I don't know where the RHM is. My worry is that he's up on the sniper hill. And I decide, whatever, let's find out. Sneak one in there. He goes off the back side of the hill. That works for me. Takes a little bit more damage. And now I just want to go dark, because I'd like to move away from this and go somewhere else and get a different angle. Probably a little early, actually. If I was artillery, I might have been able to time me on that as I moved away from the rock. Really, you can use his light as a gauge for when you go dark. If he goes dark, you probably do, provided he hasn't been spotted by somebody else along the way. It's just a rough gauge. So we'll come around here. We're knocking everything down in sight. Clearly, the RHM is not up on this sniper hill, or he would have hit me. Just aim, aim, aim. Kill him. I'm spotted. Get behind the rock. I don't want the RHM to nuke me. There he is. Find the RHM. One of the RD is down. I'll just take a chance here. He can't be shooting at all of us, right? Okay, he has no idea what's happening. There we go. That's a sweet 260 high roll. We'll take that. And we'll see if we can sneak a blind shot in. Nope. He's gone around the rock, it would appear. I was going to back out. Give us another shot. There we go. We get a kill. Take the last 17 hit points that he had. And now it's time for a little bit of acrobatics. We'll just come off this hill, try to auto-aim, and... Nope. Oh, geez. Oh, boy. Oh, okay. No, oh, geez. And on our feet, spin around, auto-aim. Boom. He got us. Ram him. Oh, not quite dead yet. What is going on? He wants to shoot us. There we go. 3 kills, 2,822, 1,549 assists, and that ends up being my first ace tanker. When the RNG is working and you can employ the 240, it's really great. What you're going to find, though, is because of the relative derpiness of the guns, it will be very frustrating at times. I had another example. I was going to show just the frustration of the gun, but I think you get the picture. RNG really worked out for me right there. So you will have plenty of games with this tank, and especially with the 300 Alpha, which I'll show you next, where you're going to miss that critical 300 Alpha shot, and you're going to be sitting there waiting forever to reload. And it is going to be quite painful. It's an interesting idea to have a large Alpha gun on a medium, but I think this particular line falls down a little bit. This just happens to be the best of the bunch. But let's look at the last example with the Top Gun. All right, this is fully upgraded now. You can see that I've got the larger gun on there. We're sitting at 168 pen for the standard AP round, and all the way up to 220 with the gold heat round, which is not amazing, but good enough to deal with, especially tier 8s. A little bit painful against some of the tier 9s. So you're not just going to press 2 and go through those dudes without a little bit of flanking or aiming. We're on Ensk again. Ensk was apparently good to me in this tank. This time spawned into the north, and so we're going to go ahead and jump down in here. There's a couple scary tanks in here, the IS-3, the ONI, some of the bigger TDs. I really just don't want to get hit by any of those guys. But with 300 Alpha and in a city where I can pop out, shoot, and protect myself for that really long reload, this is a good spot. This is a good spot for a tank like the CS-44. If you have a T-34-3, which is the Chinese 390 Alpha Tier 8, you'll get a general idea of what we're talking about here. It's a medium, but it doesn't want to get into medium brawls. It really needs to be more of a support tank, and not support as in it's a sniper and can hang out the back, but support as in it's looking for opportunities to do that. Jump out, punish people, get back, wait for that super silly long reload. He just runs in there and takes a hit. There's so many big guns back there, I just really don't want to push out anymore. So again, I'm just sitting here waiting for that opportunity. It's a little bit painful because it doesn't have the armor and the DPM to force the issue, but it can support the issue. And that's a little bit, to me, that's a bit of a painful kind of gameplay style. But if done right, this is the kind of tank that does it. So we're just going to hang in here a minute. The big problem for that general idea for me is that, let's try to sneak a shot in here, actually get it, is that that's a more passive play style, and maybe passive isn't the right word, but reactionary and reliant on your team. So it's going to be hard to get this tank up front and force the issue is what I'm saying. But as long as your team's doing all right and you're able to support them, you can certainly work around the edges of a fight and cause a lot of mayhem. So they look like they're pushing in, and all of a sudden I feel like we got a bit of an issue on the side here. So I'm going to come over here and see if we can do something about that. The Indian Panzer, unfortunately, is in the middle. Take a quick look here. Wait, oh, come on, come around. No, he doesn't. The JP, the Su 130 PM is sort of fading back. Looks like he's worried about the push a little bit. Our guys in the middle are getting a bit beat up, and this guy just doesn't come around the corner. I was hoping really he'd get a little bit brave there, so I decided, you know what, let's go into the middle here and try to take down the Indian and then work on the JP. So our Su 130 PM needs a little help. I'm going to come around this way and start working on the JP first. So we put a little thump on that dude. He sees me. I'm going to try to get past him here. There we go. Oh, he's turning, he's turning. Am I going to be able to do it? I don't know. Oh, it's going to hurt. Got him. Just got him. He was almost able to leverage himself around that corner. So a bit of a mistake here. I think I should have flexed back over and helped our guys in the city right here. This gets a little bit dicey because I'm screwing around. Then I see the JP moving across, and it looks like a shot of opportunity. I thought, oh my gosh, he's not going to come. And then it looks like maybe he is, so we'll put a shot at him. Now I'm kind of trapped by him, so I'm a bit beholden to deal with this dude. He posts up behind that building, and all of a sudden the stupid 304 is interested in me, and I really don't want to sit there and just get shot by him, so we've got to go ahead and try to peel out this JP so I can then flex over and help the rest of the guys. And then the Su 130 shows up, but he takes a hit, and he's a high roll one shot to me. You see the JP just looks at me, so I'm just going to go ahead and come around here and eat that shot, put that into him. Really want to get rid of this dude if I can. And we've got someone behind me. That's no good. Now we've got 304 and a bit of a pickle here, right? I got guys on each side of me. I think, well, maybe I can sneak one into this guy while he's not really paying attention. There we go. Trying to get his gun online. Super glad the Su-130 didn't come raging around that corner and thump me, but boom, there's the F-304, FV-304, which kills 2 guys and ammo racks me. The good news is I have both kits available, so I can go ahead and fix that immediately. T-37 is up here. I'll let that aim in a little bit, take him down. Good news is I kind of wiggled that little hole right there earlier, so it's all sorted out for me. And I know that stupid 304 has me. Right, I'm still spotted. I stopped and just, oh man, I really want to get away from this dude if I can. There we go. So we'll fade back this way, as opposed to crossing across that really open courtyard right there. And then I'll be honest right here, I was a little bit enraged. The right play, admittedly, was to get back into town and help my team. But I was a little bit irritated, to be quite honest with you, to be 100% honest. And I wanted to go end this FV-304's game. Very irritating. The bummer is I knew I was probably going to find, I saw a shot go out, so I know one of them's over there. I knew I was probably going to find the 304 and potentially the M12. The good news is one of them fired, but I don't know which one. I'm going to wait in here. Watch this. Boom. 289, baby. 289. A little high roll would have been nice. Could have taken this guy out. Clearly I'm seen at this point. I'm going to come up in here and find his buddy. And we'll bounce. I bounced off of his gun. That absolutely hurt. He slams me. Thank goodness he did not pin. So he's making a runner. The 304 is here. We shoot him. Low roll. Not enough to kill him. So I decided to take this guy out because he's going to reload first. There we go. He missed. That works. Get him dead. And now the M12 is making a runner. And somehow, despite me doing the wrong thing and sort of leaving my poor team out to dry, they end up winning over there. We kill the Su-130 PM. And now it's just the M12. It'd be nice to get the top gun right here. Does he? No, I do not. I do not. Down goes the M12. 5 kills, 2,718 damage. No assist, interestingly, at all in there. So, you know, not a pristine game, but quite a fun game, and it was nice to take out the FV-304 that was harassing me the whole game. But a pretty good example of what the big gun can do in there as far as a support tank kind of hanging around, ending relatively low hit point guys in there as well is a good thing to do with that 300 Alpha gun. All right, man, so let's wrap this up for the review of the CS-44. Alright, that's a wrap, guys, on my review of the CS-44. Overall thoughts on this thing, slightly above average. It's so far in this line, and I can speak to the CS-53 because I played it enough. I will do a review on that when I'm done grinding the thing, which won't be too long. But it's the only one in the line so far that sort of, to me, fit the idea of a hard-hitting medium. A hard-hitting medium with a little bit of mobility and kind of no armor. And I don't know why how Wargaming thinks that that's actually a good thing. It really, none of them so far have had enough of a package to be any kind of decent except for this one. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think that it's the armor is just okay enough that it can kind of work occasionally. The mobility is very good, and 300 Alpha at Tier 7 is unique. It's pretty good. Whereas you get to Tier 8, it's 300 Alpha, and that's it. So it's slightly unique, but not really, because you have 390 Alpha T-34-3 as just one example. Down at Tier 6, the 240 is interesting, but again, the derpiness of the gun, which this tank has some of those same problems with the derpiness of the gun, whereas if you miss a shot, you really are hurting. So it has a hard time taking on the other mediums in medium scraps just because its DPM is so low. It can be a good support tank as far as thumping people for 300. That's good, but it has to be able to get its reload without taking fire. And that's not very easy in the game, especially for a medium, because that's not really a medium's kind of thing necessarily. And if you think, well, I'll just sit back and snipe, that's not really a great idea because the dispersion's kind of terrible on it. I liked it. It was a decent, slightly above tier 7, largely because it could actually use its high alpha thumper stick up there pretty decently, as opposed to the rest of the line, which is struggling. The thing that's a little bit disappointing to me is that the hook for the tier 10 is the turbo, right? It has the ability to go fast. Nothing else has that. This one is just naturally decently fast at tier. The other ones aren't really. So it's kind of all over the place with this line. And I'm not saying we need to have a whole line of turbo tanks, because now we're talking about wheelies and the speed of the game and other things that are not so great. But still, this thing doesn't really have, this line doesn't really have a personality, I think. And it certainly doesn't have the personality of the tier 10, other than maybe this one a little bit. And that's why I'm calling it slightly above average, where it actually is fast, can get its big boomstick into the fight, and has enough armor and other things going for it that it can sort of employ it. There you go. Kind of a backhanded compliment. Slightly above average. That's all I've got, guys. Thanks for tuning in to my review of the CS-44. Check out all the other reviews. They're out right now for the Tier 5 and 6. The 8 is coming up, and we will see ya.